Japan. Octopuses.
What the fuck doing?
And censorship. A combination that nobody would have seen at all. Japan, what's up with these tentacles, man? I've been looking into this and I must say you guys are some freaks. Oh my god. Massive heads up, by the way. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, about as big as Mount Rushmore itself, because I'm not a history major, let alone Japanese history major, okay? So there's this up-and-coming nation, I'm not sure you heard of it. They make animated media in a distinct style and fashion that's unique to the medium called anime. Now, there has been a cavalcade of memes referencing tentacles being introduced in the most obscure ways, and I decided to do the unprecedented amount of research to determine why it is such a mainstream reference that it can just be casually just thrown into these shows I mentioned beforehand. So from what I've gleaned, it ranges from the mangaka / production studios wanting to avoid the absurd censorship laws in the erotica that they're performing in, or a 19th century artist being so horny that he made an entire erotica between an octopus and a consenting woman. Now, emphasis on the consenting is important because how do we stray so far from the source material? You know, given that we don't do consent with tentacles anymore. Now, to go to the 19th century artist I was referring to, this guy made an image that was printed in an erotica in 1814, and the book that it was printed in volume-wise was called Young Pines, but the actual image with the text behind it is called The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife. I obviously can't show you what the full text is given the breadth of the, the content, but and what this was referencing to is that the image of a woman enjoying herself getting engorged by an octopus is basically referencing the woman being a shell diver, which in their case is called Amma. And who is Amma? Why is she a shell diver? Why is she enjoying an octopus? So deep into the lore as to why I believe this started the entire genre of tentacles, why to this day they're still popularized, and we're just gonna dive deep into the deep realm. We're gonna go so deep in the ocean of the abyss of the tentacle quandaries of the universe that we're gonna end up being a deep ocean, see telepathic, see-through sharks, and it's gonna be wonderful down there. So the image is referring to a woman and a story of said woman called Princess Tatamori. And the story is dark, there's no happy ending, but let's follow along, shall we? So it's referencing a historical figure called Fujiwara no Katamari, who founded the Fujiwara clan. So Princess Tatamori, which is the story we're going to be talking about, was referenced by The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, which is in the story of Young Pines, goes as follows. So are you still following me so far? Are you catching up? Do you need a little break, a little snack break for me to connect the dots here? I can try to do the red line shit, but I'm really fucking lazy. I can't even edit this part, so. Now, when Katamari died, his daughter got shipped off to the Tang dynasty to wed their emperor. And because I guess Fujiwara put his daughter in the will, he also got his daughter as well. And the daughter was named daughter as well. Katamari also sent to the emperor of the Tang dynasty 3 treasures to help her console the death of his own demise. And a pearl was one of the treasures that was to be shipped directly to the Tang dynasty with the daughter. But surprise, surprise, it's a massive treasure. It's the 19th century. So that treasure just got stolen off a ship. It was stolen by a dragon. So like we're going balls to the walls here. So who was the daughter of Katamari has a brother. His name is Fujito. And Fujito was like, fuck it. I'm going after that pearl, even if it kills me. It's one of the last things my father left us. And I'm not going to stop at all until I find it. Oh, who's this wonderful lady over there? She's hot.
Okay, wait, so let me show you.
And the she in question is Amma, the shell diver I referenced earlier. I do find it funny how the quest to find the pearl to basically restore the memory of his lost father, he also found a wife on the way. Like, maybe that's a sign that, your dad's looking out for you. Maybe his dad killed himself on purpose so he can summon a dragon to steal the pearl, and then years later his own son will go down looking for the pearl because how vengeful his son is, and then with all that knowledge his son will happen to stumble upon a wife while looking for the pearl. It was genius. This guy is a mastermind. Of course this didn't happen, but I can only surmise and guess as much because he found a wife on the way to avenge his father's treasures. So now Amma is fully courted, she's married to this man, and they're still looking for this pearl. And she gets so inspired by all the stories of Fujito going like, man, my father's a great guy. You know, he mastered the entire clan, by the way. This is really cool. I'm royalty. You know, check it out. She's just enthralled and enamored by his wonderful stories. So she goes, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna use my diving expertise to find the jewel myself. And she goes deep diving. Now, I would say, why is she deep diving to find a jewel for random man? But number one, that's her job. Number two, it's her husband. So, you know, I can kind of justify her doing this. It's just like in and out, very easy, right? But unfortunately, when she does discover it, the dragon also discovers her discovering it. And so do some octopuses, and she's running away. Now, when she's swimming away, when she's swimming away from the both octopi and the dragon, she's noticing that her acceleration is on the low end. So she pulls out a knife, slits open her breast, sticks the pearl in there, swims to the top, and then dies to, you know, a festering gash that she, you know, applied to herself in the middle of the ocean. And I can't even imagine how deep it must have been that she died coming to the surface. She must have lost all the blood, whatever, regardless. My point is, that's how she dies. Now, after all that, the only question I have to ask is, how did Hosakai, the guy who made the fisherman his wife, hear this tragic tale and go, what if she fucked the octopus? I mean, this origin does explain the relationship a lot of tentacle enjoyers immerse themselves in present day, so I guess that does make sense. But nobody's referencing Dream of the Fisherman's Wife. They're talking about all this tentacle free. Nobody at all. Like, I didn't even know about this shit. That is the beginning of the origin of the tentacle tomfoolery. For as early as I've seen, it's probably earlier than that, but when we're specifically and explicitly talking about tentacles in Japan, this is the early beginning. Now I'm going to flash forward all the way to 1900s, you know, to 20th century. Oh my God, 100 plus years, whatever. Oh my God. And we're looking at a way to circumnavigate censorship because, again, in the early 1900s, Japan has been implementing some hardcore censorship laws that have been passed down to them from previous generations. Now, I will say the consequences that this piece of media has had on our society is dire, right? We all have the sexual maturity and the sexual promiscuity of an 880 Viking who was just fully raiding every single day. It is just wonderful. That all aside, let's talk about the law, shall we? You know, since yeah, the law's kind of cool. Well, not really, it's fucking boring. So now Japan has had this dormant fetish just chilling in the background, waiting to be used. And then lo and behold, the censorship laws of 1907, Article 175 of Japanese Criminal Code hit. And then all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, we get a lot of censorship in regards to erotica. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let's go and look at the law, shall we? A person who distributes, sells, or displays in public an obscene document, drawing, or other objects shall be punished by imprisonment with work for not more than 2 years, a fine of not more than 2.5 million yen, which is about 25,000, I believe, yeah, or a petty fine. The same shall apply to a person who possesses the same for the purpose of sale. Now, we read further on, and it says that article has been amended in 2011 to include the recording of media containing obscene records, and their willingness to keep obscene as vague as possible does lead to some questionable moments in legal pursuits. So just say that for lack of better words. Examples of this are of authors of Mishihito, which was a 2002 animation erotica, where he got fined 500,000 yen, which is about like 5K, for, and I quote here from the court itself, genitalia and scenes of sexual intercourse that were drawn in detail and realistically. The authors, from what I'm seeing in this case so far, they try to fight back to no avail, and eventually got the eroticas pulled from the shelves, and they're no longer obviously working on that media whatsoever. I do want to review that eventually because that's a pretty good reference to go into a show of saying like, oh fuck, this is the show that got canceled by Japan. That'd be a good to look into. That is just an example of the numerous cases of the vague concerted censorship laws that were restricting free speech in lieu of erotica. Now, while there are a few to like no arrest issued or sentenced due to this law and its very open interpretation and framing, it does explain like why all the erotica that comes explicitly and strictly from Japan is being produced in the manner that it is being produced today. You know, the glowing white figure, the pixelation that you can't even see what is going on, the weird black bars and lines, the numerous amounts of censorship going on there, because if they don't do this, then they are literally being criminally charged. Now, I wanted to go even further into the origin as to why the censorship was here in the first place. And I went back far enough to all the way to the 17th century. Maybe I should be a historical major or something, because like I don't know how I got this deep into Japanese history, but I learned a lot more looking up about this video about Japanese history than I ever did in my fucking life. From what I've seen, this is a lot of the conservatism in regards to being willing and able to just censor any form of media or any form of political dissent that is not kosher of the moment. It doesn't fit the framing of the current political climate. It goes all the way back to the Tokugawa shogunate, which was Japan's government in the 1600s all the way to 1867. And their censorship was more explicitly heavily focused on Christian censorship. It was because they wanted to quell any rebellion and any other counter-revolutionary thoughts in regards to question the philosophy that the shogunate had at the current time. So transition from that mind frame to the Meiji period, where Japan was focusing heavily on censorship of Western ideas, including concepts such as pornography. So we went from censoring Christians, which is explicitly political, to censoring Western ideals and pornography. So we go from political and culture, so it's politically and culturally as well. And then we use the flexibility of the censorship while we're still holding that as a core concept to post-World War II to present day, where the occupation of the political and media focused laws that were restrictive in nature have been basically abolished by the Supreme Commander for Allied Powers, which meant that they rewrote Japan's constitution to deter its militaristic nationalism. However, Japan still held tight to media censorship laws, held on tight to tradition. Good job, Japan. Gotta show those degenerates that they can't enjoy their lives. Way to go. So instead of getting beheaded like one would in the Meiji period for enjoying the pornographic images that one would enjoy today, instead, the people of the current generation would just get a $5,000 to $20,000 slap on the wrist, and rarely, but most unlikely, faced a prison sentence of up to 2 years. It's not a great thing in general, but it's miles better, and it still allows for the creation of content I review today. Now, Toshio Maeda, the creator of Urotsuki Doji, a fantastic series, was being interviewed and talked about how his studio had to adapt to these censorship laws while wanting to retain the raw element of in his stories. At this time, which was pre-Urotsuki Doji, obviously, it was illegal to create any sensual scene in bed. And like I mentioned, when I was referring to the law, they would just adapt to the current climate. So again, if they were just all of a sudden went from paper, print to now it's on your Game Boy Color, they said, okay, now we're updating the law to Game Boy Color censorship, so they kept upping the status pretty much. So Toshio sees this obstacle and goes, you know what? I still want the full entire rawness, but I will get arrested if I do this. So what if I use a tentacle? All I have to say is, technically, Your Honor, this isn't a penis. It's just an appendage. It's their arm, it's their leg, it's their finger. You don't know, it's not their penis. So it's not illegal. Talk about loopholes, Jesus Christ. In this philosophical thinking, this lawyer-brained individual basically unofficially revolutionized how Japan's media is made to this day. If an artist or an erotica wants to involve themes that don't want to be censored at all, just got the random animals in there, you know, but they can't look like penises at all, and you get the full-fledged entire action shot. Think about all the tentacle scenes you've ever seen in your life, and oddly enough, they weren't censored. I wonder why, or at least not all the way censored. They're partially censored, given the fact that the woman's genitalia would still, you know, be fully intact. I assume you can't have a woman octopus vagina. That would be very, how would that even work? Then who's going into who? Is it like one of those like absorbing the other, whatever? So my interest in this topic in general is because Americans aren't as imaginative as the Japanese are when they have lore stemming back from the 1800s as to why tentacles, even if done ironically, are so prevalent to this day. And the reason why I say Americans aren't really imaginative when it comes to erotica is because our top few categories, they range from cuckery, BBC, step family, and I know we're freaky, but our erotica is very one-to-one explanatory, right? I can just go down the list as to why they're extremely just transparent and why it just makes sense given our societal, you know, insecurities to this day. So let's go down the list, shall we? Cuckery is a top thing on the list because there's a whole thing on men need to build their families, to start on their own, strike out and become men, become the ideal imagery, become strong, have a family, protect that family. And when you see somebody else who isn't as strong get their wife taken by somebody else who's stronger than them, they're no longer a man in the person's watching eyes. So they go like, yeah, I'm way more man than that guy. That explains the BBC.
And she just sits there for a minute, astonished at the girth and the length of the BBC.
Hey, I don't really want to explain why that's a popular category. Let's just move on. Step family. Step family because there was a really weirdly popular trend that has been going on since the beginning of the inception of everything. If you go even to the Bible, like there are multiple instances where God is trying to populate the earth and is only giving like 3 people that job to do so, and they're all related. So maybe incest has always been a thing that's prevalent into our minds because we're so lonely, we're so sad, we're so isolated that we would much rather have sex with people we already have to talk to, just having sex on easy mode. Jesus Christ. And then the whole forceful non-consent has a lot to do with this thing I mentioned before. We're all lonely, we're depressed, so therefore instead of talking to the person into having consensual acts, we would just go full-fledged and basically rob them of their autonomy and treat them like they're our own toy. So there are a lot of very simple fetishes that America and the West enjoys in general, but they're just so boring that if you think about it for 2 seconds, it's just vile and disgusting, right?
Would you say that you are kinky?
I mean, I guess Japan has that for lowly, but that's not what we're talking about now. So I guess to wrap things up for this very schizophrenic, off the walls stream of consciousness video that had no ideal core plot philosophy, just ended up becoming this hodgepodge mash patch. What the fuck this shit is, I don't know what the fuck's going on here. Japan has been struck with multiple laws explicitly banning genitalia in erotic media, and there have been multiple ways to evade that censorship in real life and animated, but I'm basically referring to the animated version of that. The one pioneer of said censorship was Tentacles. Thus, shows like Urotsuki Doji, Obscene Beast Teacher, Alien from Darkness, etc., etc. That was that video. I don't know what this video was. I was looking at this video ever since I made the last one, and then life happened, so I got stalled. But once I started making it, I just couldn't stop, and I got sources of all the things I looked up to even get to this point. So I meant to say the dream of the fisherman's wife the entire time, not the fisherman and his wife. Those are 2 different stories, unrelated to another. Having to look up law for this video was pretty insightful. I didn't know how explicit the law was for Japanese censorship. I find it funny how they have these laws, yet lowly is like one of the most popular categories over there. Like one of the most popular categories. It makes no fucking sense to me. It's like the laws are facing the wrong direction. It's like, hey bro, I understand, you know, genitals are bad and all, but there are motherfuckers who are explicitly making an entire catalog of lowly content, and we're just not gonna even blink at that. Like, not even a little bit. Like, I just whatever. Okay, all right. I'm not making any accusations of the Japanese government, but I just say the priorities are fucked up. So that's all I gotta say. You know. Now, I understand the logistics for outright banning lowly content isn't as straightforward as one would seem, because as you see here with the obscenity laws, with nudity and genitalia in general, what is obscenity? What truly is obscene? So in regards to lowly, it would be difficult to say that, because like, what constitutes lowly content? Is it age? Is it the appearance? Is it how they're being formatted? Is it the power dynamics? Like, my point was that if they're going to put these hardcore laws on art as they're doing regardless, why can't they put the hardcore laws like this in regards to lowly content? Right? That's my whole point there. It wasn't that I am advocating for the hardcore laws. It's just saying if they are going to be doing this anyway, why not do it for the betterment of mankind, you know? Alright guys, I don't know an outro, but if I did, it wouldn't matter because no makes sense of the video. Good night.
As soon as I blow up, I know that's when they gon' hate me. I ain't even made it, still the people out there hating. They just mad cause they on the couch being lazy. Meanwhile, I be out working on a daily. Whoa, I know they don't know my name, but they'll know when YBP come knocking at they door. Never go fall off, all we do is grow. Coming up quick, imagine moving slow.